Meet the Pittsburgh Steelers' newest nickel cornerback, Beanie Bishop Jr. So, after the NFL draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers signed some undrafted free agents, and one of them being Beanie Bishop from West Virginia. He's a cornerback, and also the Pittsburgh Steelers have high hopes for him. But before I get more into this, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. And also like the video. Now, let's get right back into it. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, they signed Beanie Bishop Jr. right after the draft. And just recently, Omar Khan, in an interview, Pittsburgh Steelers general manager, had great praise for him, basically saying that he could contribute to the team right away this season. Here's his exact quote. Beanie Bishop, I can't tell you how excited we are to have an opportunity to sign him after the draft. We had him here for a visit. When he was here, we talked about our defense and how he would fit in. And we really felt like he was a guy who could come in and compete. We were able to do business with him after the draft, and I think he's going to have a great opportunity to help us this year. And nickel corner, and he adds special teams value as well. So, I already made a video covering all the undrafted free agents, their profile, everything like that. But since Omar Khan brings up Beanie Bishop Jr. specifically, saying he could have an impact on this team right away, let's just get more into depth on who Beanie Bishop is. But first, let's take a look on why Omar Khan would say these things about him. So first off, you look at the Steelers cornerback room, and they don't really have a true slot cornerback on the team right now. You look at the cornerbacks they have, like Dante Jackson, Joey Porter Jr., Corey Trice, Rush. They are all outside cornerbacks. They played mostly outside in their career, in college, and everything like that. So they don't really have a true nickel slot cornerback to go out there and play. But obviously Omar Khan feels as though Beanie Bishop, he is that guy. And he's one of the main persons on the team for that reason. And that's why they brought him in. So that's why he would even have an opportunity to play right away. Because the Steelers don't have that slot cornerback. And he would be the only true guy there. So Omar Khan, he volunteered Beanie Bishop and the notion of him competing right away. And when do you ever see that? An undrafted guy coming in and right away your general manager is saying you have a chance to impact this team greatly. Usually the undrafted free agents a team signs after the draft, they don't even end up making the team. But the Pittsburgh Steelers have seen some impact players in undrafted free agents in their history. And most recently, being Jalen Warren, being the success story, being the second running back on the roster, and he even looks like he might even be the best running back. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, obviously Omar Khan has great value in Beanie Bishop, even though he was undrafted. You have to remember the Steelers, they didn't have a 7th round pick. So maybe if they did have a 7th round pick, he would have been the selection. But now let's just move over to what Beanie Bishop is throughout his career, what he's done in college, and his strengths and weaknesses, and what he could provide to the Pittsburgh Steelers on the football field. Let's get right into it. So, as I said, Beanie Bishop Jr., he went undrafted to the NFL draft, and the Pittsburgh Steelers signed him right after. He's a player cornerback out of West Virginia, and he stands at 5'9", 180 pounds, and he was a junior. So, he comes out, and his hand size is 9 3/8 inches, his arm length 30 3/4, his wingspan 72, and he ran a 40-yard dash time of 4.39 seconds. When you look at the positives of Beanie Bishop's game, the strengths that stand out is he plays with that Mighty Mouse attitude and won't back down from anyone. Even though he stands at 5'9", he plays with extremely good ball production. And this past season, he had 4 interceptions and 20 pass defense. So it just shows, even though he's a smaller player, he's still really good in coverage and his instincts are great. Getting turnovers is a big thing in the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. They're always top of the leagues in interceptions, getting turnovers, and he would be a guy added right into that mix that's going to help that as well. So he has great coverage skills, and he's put in situations, and he anticipates routes and breaks quickly. When you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers slot cornerbacks that they've had in recent years, like just say Mike Hilton, for example. Even though Mike Hilton is one of the best slot cornerbacks in the league, But when he was here, he wasn't a great coverage corner. He was good at blitzing and doing all little things, stopping the run, but he was never a true coverage corner. And the Pittsburgh Steelers just haven't had that in a minute. Since he left, they've been going through some cornerbacks in the slot. They had Cameron Sutton, who was a pretty good slot cornerback in terms of coverage, but he moved to the outside. And then they had Shannon Sullivan. They had like Elijah Riley, but they weren't really true coverage guys. So having Beanie Bishop here right now, he would be a true slot cornerback who is a coverage guy. And he shows great awareness in the open field to make plays. He's also a player who works hard to jam receivers and get up between their hands to deflect or intercept the ball. He has a quick kind of flipping his hip transition, meaning that when the players are breaking in and out of their routes, he's able to cover them and mirror them greatly and stick with them in coverage. And he doesn't allow them to get much space. So he easily runs downfield with his opponents. He also, like I said, 4.39 second 40-yard dash time. So he is fast. He's not just going to get ran by. He is great in terms of moving his hips, but also has the speed to stay with them as well. And also, he mixes it up throughout the route and isn't afraid to be physical in the middle of the route. You know how cornerbacks usually in the middle of the route, they don't want to hand fight, don't want to drop penalties. He doesn't drop penalties, but he does hand fight and he is physical, putting the wide receiver on notice that he's there and that the play is going to be made by him. Also, when you look at his back pedal in terms of the film, he stays low in his back pedal and he explodes to the ball out of his plant, meaning that he's able to stop on a dime. Once he sees the cut made by the wide receiver, the cut made by whoever he's guarding, he's able to break on the ball, break on the receiver immediately because of that quick back pedal and that quick plant. So he quickly closes to the action near the line of scrimmage greatly. He's able to break on the ball, break on the quarterback, read the play nicely, and just overall just plays with a great nasty attitude that the Pittsburgh Steelers want. And I'm talking about coverage right now, but he also plays nasty in the run game as well. Even though he stands at 5'9", he comes in with the attitude that he's not afraid to get his hands dirty and make the play. He may not be the biggest guy, but he's in there to make the play and isn't afraid of the action. Also, when you look at him as a special teamer, something Omar Khan said was he may have a value as special teams as well, because he could do that and he could play nickel cornerback. And we all know that's where the Pittsburgh Steelers undrafted guys, late round guys earn their stripes, with Danny Smith on special teams and just providing special teams value. That's where it's all started for Jalen Warren to start getting his reps, and that led to him getting more reps on the offense side of the ball. So if he wants to stick on this team, Beanie Bishop is going to have to be a great special teamer as well. And he actually has great experience in the special teams. Just like Omar Khan said, he could do special teams because he is a good kick returner, punt returner, and he's experienced on the coverage teams as well. So he's not only a good slot guy, he's also a good kind of special teamer as well. So those are the positives. That's what he can contribute to the Steelers. That's what his film shows. But there's also some bad things. Obviously, there's always some good and negative things with each player and what they do. So now let's look at the negatives. Obviously, it's that he's small in height and length for the cornerback position. 5'9", like 180 pounds. Also, when you look at his coverage skills, he does struggle a little bit with tight ends and on the run blocking situations when he's matched up with the tight ends as well. But that's obvious because of his height compared to a 6'5" tight end. That's going to be a big situation. Usually slot cornerbacks are a little bit smaller, so he could cover them. But matching up against tight ends will be a problem for him just because of how much taller they are. But obviously, when you think of this, even though I'm listing these as the negatives, these are just the basic things. And the most obvious things you could say about a player is, hey, they're not as tall, their arm length isn't great, but just look at the production, that didn't matter. He got 4 interceptions, 20 pass defense. So obviously he's defined the odds in terms of just the basic narrative around him. So I keep saying that he sometimes struggles in kind of being handsy. Sometimes, like I said, he does become physical in the middle route. He doesn't pick up too many penalties, but he has picked up a decent amount. So sometimes he also panics when he fails to locate the deep ball. Obviously, interceptions, that's great, but he needs to be able to locate it better on the film. Sometimes he gets caught up kind of gazing at the quarterback too long that he loses sight of the wide receiver. Also, he tends to break on routes too quickly. He's able to break in and break out of a stance very good, but sometimes it's too quickly and off coverage. Also, he will struggle to get off blocks in the run game, but once again, that's just due to his size. He's over aggressive sometimes and shoots angles to the runners and shoots angles to try to intercept the ball. But like Mike Tomlin always says, he would rather someone be too aggressive and have to kind of tone them in than have to tell them to get going and be more aggressive. So obviously that's something that they like with their players. Also, one last thing is he will be 24 years old at the start of the NFL season and only has 24 starts in 6 years, which could be a concern that he's a 1-year wonder type of player in college. But Omar Khan, he obviously sees great value in what Beanie Bishop could bring. And when you just look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and the players that they drafted, they actually drafted more older players in this year's draft, around the 23, 24-year-old mark. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, obviously, they bring in Beanie Bishop. Omar Khan speaks highly of him. And like I said, he will have a chance to compete for a starting nickel slot cornerback role on this team, just based off the players that the Pittsburgh Steelers have on the roster that can't do what he could do. Also, Chandler Sullivan, Elijah Riley, those are the players who were the slot kind of guys last season. Chandler Sullivan being the starter, but he's not on the roster anymore, so it opens the window for someone to take over as a starter. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, they signed Beanie Bishop, and they have great confidence in him and what his ability is and how he can help his team. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Your thoughts on Omar Khan listing him as a player that could contribute right away, even though he is undrafted. Do you think you'll have a chance to be the starter at that slot position? Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news, updates, and introductions. This is the Beanie Bishop Jr. introduction, and I'll continue doing more on every new player that I think could impact the team. I already did it on most of the players we already signed, but this is this one. If you want to go check out every other player's introduction, it's on the channel, and also I'll be covering every news that happens as we get into more of the offseason, training camp, everything like that, and every new player we continue to get, all the trade speculation. So subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, like the video, and I'll see you guys all later. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.